Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well. Good morning. Hello. Good to see you, folks. I think everything's up and running this morning. A few little technical difficulties. Morning, Kevin. How are you, mate? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Got a few on now, but while things warm up and the old Facebook gets going, the YouTube gets going, do the quick intros. Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. If you're new, Alex is not new though. Good morning, Alex. Great to see you again, mate. Surviving up there in Cairns. It's cooled down a little bit, hasn't it? It's cooled down. Not so crazy. Welcome to the show. Wealth Coffee Chats, folks. Been doing this for a couple of years now, maybe 3 years. I think this is the third year of the show. A morning get together for our clients, our customers, and also mad keen property investors like you and Luke, keen property investor indeed. We get to hang out in the mornings. Talk about what's going on out there in the world of property investing, share some strategies, some tips, some techniques, some opinions, some market movements, whatever is going on. Plenty happening. But this week, last week, I thought we might dive into getting ready for the year or maybe resetting some of our thoughts as investors. Some of you are new, some of you are seasoned, wherever you're at. It's always great to sort of take a little, take stock of where you're at and what your goals are and what we're doing, what we're up to. So welcome along. Great to see you. And if you didn't already know, Jason Witt's my name. There it is on the screen. It says so right there. If you are new, let us know in the chat. Where are you? Where are you in Australia? What are you up to? Share a little bit of the conversation. But let's get on with it this morning because I've got a few things that I want to maybe jump into this morning. We've been sharing over the last week and a bit, and if you're sort of joining us today and you haven't seen the other 4 or 5 lives that we've done, go track them down. They'll be in either the Facebook group or the YouTube channel, and you'll see them. But what we've done, folks, is we've been systematically going through, a bit of a check-in. Where are you now? If it's brand new, you're starting out, or you're an experienced investor, where do you want to be? Know your numbers, how far, how many properties, where are you in the scheme of things? Where are you in the momentum of it all? Morning, Sonia. Good to see you. Where are you Where are you in your journey? What do you need to do to keep going? Is there anything holding you back? You know, is it right now, for most people, it's probably finance. You know, for finance, buying and servicing, it's been a bit of a tough gig for the last sort of 12 months to unlock equity, to get our borrowing power going. Don't despair, folks. Don't despair. It will not stay that way forever. Won't stay that way forever. So this is the ebb and flow of finance and real estate, and you know, got to try and get your mojo on and keep it going. So you know, you can make sure you get what you need to get done, ladies and gents, folks. You know, and where are you at? You know, what gap in knowledge, information do you have right now? And you know, how you feeling about that? Have you got your team in place? The right people to help you achieve what you need to achieve. So that's what we've been sort of going through, team. That's hopefully catching you up just quickly on the last sort of week and a bit. But today I want to talk about the idea of how do you know, we know kind of, hey, we've checked in, we know we need to get 5 or 6 properties in our portfolio. That's your goal, or a version of that. It might be 4, it might be 8, whatever you're looking at. And then how do we get to the nitty gritty of your portfolio, right? You know you need to buy some assets, and part of your asset accumulation is going to be some real estate. What type of real estate? Where would you buy it? What are you going to go? What type of property are you going to talk about? So let's dive into that conversation today. That's kind of the bits and bobs of today's chat, folks. So hang in there. Good you could join us, and let's have a look at my wonderful map of Australia. A few of you have seen this before, but morning, Fritz, Sonia, you're in the house too. Good to see you. So first things first, big picture. Let's zoom out, and then we'll sort of zoom in to the style of what are we doing. Number one is the idea of most of us, we have a conversation of it's a buy and hold, folks, a buy and hold portfolio to begin with. We purchase some properties. You might be right, Sonia. You purchase some properties and you want to own them, some good quality properties over the long period. Now, ownership, how can we make sure, morning, Catherine, good to see you. You know, how can we make sure we get the most efficiency out of that? And sort of there's some ideas to this strategy, this conversation, diversification. Diversification, that says. I don't know how to spell it all correctly, but you know, you get the drill, right? What do you mean diversification? Well, ladies and gents, folks, there's a few ways to diversify. There's diversify in location. There's diversify in property type. And there's diversify in income type. And there's kind of like a matrix, they can overlap, okay? Overlap. So diversification. What do I mean by location? The reason we talk about diversifying across different locations in Australia, chuck that out there for me. Maybe some of you already know this, but what's the main reason in Australia that, let's say, if you were to buy, if you said, all right, I'm going to buy 6 properties, and you bought all 6, let's say, in Queensland, what are some of the things that are a challenge for you buying only in Queensland? Yep, land tax, exactly. So there's a couple of things. Depends on how much you can afford to borrow and purchase at. So your price point might be an issue. You live in Sydney and you're thinking, all right, I'm going to buy 6 properties in Sydney. Well, can you do that? Well, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't afford that because the average price of a house in Sydney is like $1.1 million, right? So we talk about this. But efficiency, land tax. If you own 6 properties in Queensland, you're probably going to be paying between $10,000 and $20,000 a year in land tax, folks. But if you bought, let's say, 2 here and 2 here and 2 there, then you'd be paying close to no land tax, ladies and gents, especially in the beginning. Later on, as your property values rise, then land tax becomes more payable. But how can you minimize land tax? This is one of the interesting things I've talked about plenty of time. I hear a lot of unsophisticated commentary around units aren't as good as houses. And I think that's complete and absolute rubbish. They're both fantastic as long as you understand what to expect from each of them. But one of the values of land tax of apartments is you can have a very, very expensive apartment, let's say a $2 million apartment, and the land tax bill is this, compared to a $2 million house when the land tax bill is this. Now, go and do the math on your cash flow and other things, folks, then, you weigh it up. And location, and I own houses, I own apartments, I own townhouses. I own little development sites. I do it all. I own commercial property. But, it's a stupid argument to say one's better than the other. People who say that don't understand the ideas that can be applied. So, let's say we did that, diversification. So number one, we want to manage our land tax. It's an expense that is, I think, ridiculous and stupid. Let's say, insurance can be a real issue for sure, Alex, especially in the north, right? The cyclone insurance and all that sort of stuff, that's another bloody thing. Don't get me started on those insurers who are absolute scammers as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, let's stay on track today, Jason. Land tax, folks. Let's do that. Why else? Well, capital growth, right? Because not every state grows at the same time. Right now, folks, who came along to Dr. Andrew Wilson the other night? What's the number one state at the moment, or let's say city, that's growing in value? It's got the fastest capital growth right now, and it has done last year. Which was the state that grew the fastest, folks? Can you guys remember what Dr. Andrew Wilson said? Chuck it in the chat for me. Which state got the most growth, right? And it was Perth. It was WA. So Western Australia has had the best capital growth and the best rent growth, by the way, as a percentage. Brisbane's done well. Sydney's gone flat and Melbourne's gone flat, right? So as in, guessing WA, Perth, Queensland is number 2, Luke, for sure, so it's right in there. So if you had a diversified portfolio, and let's say, you really went for it and you had sort of, 2 in Queensland and 2 in New South Wales and 2 in Victoria and 2 in WA, well, your Western Australian properties are growing in value. What does that mean for you? Well, your ability to buy and your ability to continue to borrow is then always there. If you only had one, let's say you had everything in Melbourne or Victoria, well, your growth might be going sideways and you can't unlock the equity and you want to buy in Queensland and WA, etc. So capital growth is really important to be able to continue to move forward, and each of the states have different growth periods and different growth spurts at different times, and different types of property grow at different speeds in those states and cities as well, folks. So, this is the kind of conversation, a diversification, as we go along. And what else do we want to? Why is diversification good? Because it allows you to buy based on your dollars. Okay, so like I said before, in Sydney, if you had a $700,000 budget, well, you might only be buying in the city a small apartment. If you took that budget to Queensland or Victoria or Western Australia, $700,000 might get you a house on the city in the the city ring, that 25 to 35k away, right? So you might choose a house instead of a one-bedroom apartment in Sydney, okay, for your budget. So it allows some of that stuff. Really important to get down pat, right? Because, in my world, I like the idea of diversification. Sam calls it the 5 cities strategy. Okay, he likes the 5 city strategy, but it's simple. It's like, all right, let's get one in southeast Queensland, anywhere from Gold Coast to Brisbane to Sunny Coast. Is kind of like in that Queensland corridor. Let's get one in New South Wales. Sometimes the price point in New South Wales is a bit difficult, but we're doing something amazing right now for those who are in our mentoring and coaching program. If you're not on this Gosford thing today, folks, go and have a look and talk to your coach and your PC. It's launching today. It's an absolute cracker, right? You might get something in the Central Coast or something like that. Still New South Wales, still diversification, still capital growth, etc. In Victoria, really well priced. So you might start with that as part of your portfolio building. All right, and stick to your plan. Stick to your plan, folks, as you go. So, big picture, diversification is important. Then we drill into let's say for example in New South Wales, what are we looking at? How do we choose in here? How do we make some decisions on our purchases? All of us, every single one of us, are restricted by our buying power and serviceability. What does that mean? It means the lenders, the people you borrow money from, dictate the maximum amount you can borrow. And, if you had $700,000 of total purchasing power, you're dead right, Jeff. You're dead bloody right. Go and have a look at the construction costs at the moment. So, 700K, if that's your buying power, then, you're drilling into the different cities. What could you buy? 700K, let's say in Brisbane. Brisbane can get you a house, 35K from the CBD, right? Now, if you go to Sydney, folks, how far from the CBD can you get a house for 700K? Anyone know? 700K house? Well, you're probably 100K from the CBD of Sydney, and it's probably not even Sydney for crying out loud. You're probably cities and cities and cities and cities away in reality, right? And Melbourne, right now actually has some exit value in that house world, 35K-ish as well, depending on where you are. All right, so that's kind of a house, right? And then have a look. How far from Sydney are you going to get a townhouse around 700K? Well, you're probably still, a long way away. A unit or apartment for 700. We did something amazing in Blacktown last year in Sydney. Was really well priced. You could get 700 grand 2-bedders, really nicely done. And that's I think that's 30 or 40K away from the CBD. Okay, so if there's distance, team, and this is kind of putting your strategy together. You're thinking, all right, well, I've got a certain amount of capacity I can buy. I'm going to choose, let's say, I'm going to choose Brisbane, and then, what type of deal am I going to buy? You still can get that kind of, 10 to 15K part for apartments, but, that's getting so much more difficult no matter where you are in Australia because of the cost of construction. The townhouses are brilliant. That 15 to 25K radius, certainly in Brisbane, the townhouse world is really super good value at the moment. It's kind of really sort of landing in the right spots, right? So this is what you do. You kind of go, okay, now here's the other thing. It doesn't have to always be, the CBD, right? We call this the proximity of profit, right? The proximity of profit. how close do you want to be to a certain thing, right? I just put the CBD there just as a reference because it's regular. But what other things would you want to be close to, folks? What in Australian real estate drives value, right? Drives value. What are those 4 or 5 other things that if you can get close to them are super valuable? It enhances the capital growth. It enhances the rental and so on. Chuck it in the chat for me if you want. But, number 1, water or water views, beach, the beach, et cetera, infrastructure, right? So transport, jobs, train lines, education, hospitals, I'd call it sort of, infrastructure and, you know what I'm saying, infrastructure, where you can be close to, employment hubs and things like that. You don't need a car. I mean, right now, folks, the cost of petrol, the cost of bloody everything, one of my apartments in Brisbane is renting, get this, $1,850 a week. It's insane. The 2 people who live there don't need any cars, no cars. They've got a gym in there. They've got a pool on the roof. Like, they're paying for the convenience of life, not living out, let's say, somewhere cheaper, but having to maintain a car, fuel, all of that sort of stuff. So, interesting times, ladies and gents. So, water, infrastructure, and then it's probably infrastructure and, proximity to jobs in that sort of space. And Sam calls it, green space, precincts, like green, water, hospital, education, like those precincts, all right, as we go. And then the other one, Sam says all the time, which is like the 4th place, right, placemaking. Where can you, Tenerife's cracking as well. No, my one's in South Brizzy, Jeff, but Tenerife is the same with rents, like they're just through the roof. The 4th place, folks. My apartment has literally across the road a massive park, a 1-minute walk down to the Brisbane River entertainment precinct. Okay, so the fourth space is amazing. Okay, so you get that kind of thing, right? So let's do a quick recap. Building our portfolio, thinking about the locations, the states, the cities. Why? Because diversification, land tax, capital growth, your budget might constrain you. And then let's drill in. What type of property? Is it a house? Is it a townhouse? Is it an apartment? And what infrastructure? What is the proximity of the profit driver? What's going to drive the profit? What's going to drive the growth and the rental for you? Why would someone be there? If your customer or your tenant is choosing it because it's the cheapest or it's a budget choice, your property is not going to be driven by human emotion, human wants, and profit is linked, or extreme profit is linked to human wants and desires. People willing to pay more because they want something, not scrimping and saving just on the breadline to get by. Okay, they're 2 different choices. Sam calls them flight to quality as we go. So that's it today, folks. Tomorrow, I thought I was going to get to it today, but tomorrow we're going to look at the income profiles, the incomes, how we design our portfolio based on the income style that we want. Okay, income. So make sure you join me for that one tomorrow. We're going to dive into the income strategies, and we're going to talk about, how you design them as an investor. There we go. Oh, there it is up there. I lost my mouse for a second. But anyway, folks, that's it from me today. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. So join me tomorrow if you've got some time. We can hang out, and do it again. Like I said, we're going to talk about income design in your portfolio. So tomorrow, 8:10. That's it from me, folks. Good to see you. Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Chris. Whoever's still on. Alex. Away you go. Stephen Miles Housing Plan. Haven't seen it yet, Alex. Maybe I've been missed a few of the things. If you've got an article, tag me, Alex. But I'll track it down. I'll track it down for sure. I'll come back with a pontification or an opinionation on it in the next few days. All right, folks, that's it from me. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Take care. Bye for now. See you tomorrow. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.